All right, just like every franchisor hot seat before you, the question is very easy, and then we'll get more into the business. But how did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise backstory?
So the business started 2017, and it just started from something really little. And from that, really exponentially started to grow. And we got to a point that we opened a second store, and we're like, okay, so what is going to be next? Our founder is an amazing entrepreneur, and she is my sister, my older sister. And she always needs to do something bigger. And that's how the franchise just came to her mind. And she was like, I think other people can benefit from this fast growth and build their own business. So that's what that was the beginning of it.
So you start with one location, not with a mindset of we're gonna franchise this business. Did you have like, obviously you fall into the med spa category, but were you a med spa to begin, or did the service line continue to expand?
So what started with, so our founder, Mernaz, she was a big ad executive in Iran. We're both born and raised in Iran. And when she moved to United States, she was struggling to figure out what she wants to do. And back in the day, at that time, her eyebrows weren't as fabulous as she wanted them to be. And she was in search of finding something that could work. And she found it in Dubai. And then desperately starting to figure out if we could find something here in United States, because this is something that needs to be redone or retouched every year. She couldn't find anything, and she thought, well, then I'm going to do it if there is nothing like this here. At that time, there were a few studios around United States that were doing this. And she started with like a, I don't know, 10 by 20 studio, tiny little place that she was there for maybe less than a year. Immediately starting to grow because of how amazing her work was. And from there, she went to a bigger space. And from the bigger space, she just we just renewed our lease after 5 years for another 10 years to make it just bigger. And from just doing brows, starting spa, bringing in estheticians, masseuse. We are not doing massages anymore. We started with that, gave it a try. Weren't super happy with it. So we just stuck with estheticians and doing spa. Doing that for the past 5 years, we realized there were so many things that a lot of clients would like to have as organic, natural. And there are a lot of people who prefer other things like more on a chemical side, laser treatments, and those type of medical spa services. And because of that, as we already had a big clientele, we decided to open a medical spa and offer that to those who wanted it. And both have been super successful. Because of that, having built this from the ground up, we realize we have the knowledge and we have built it already, that we can help others some kind of find a shortcut, because we have done the hard work already, and they could take this model, which is a successful model as it has shown through numbers and facts, and build their own.
So today, how many locations do you have?
Right now, we have a location in Toledo, Ohio, which is our headquarters, and we have our second location in Michigan as our, excuse me, medical spa. And we have registered in New York and obviously all other states that you can register for franchise without any fees. We are just launching. This is the actual first steps, and I'm very new in it. Excited to learn, excited for the challenges. But we are one of the things that really makes us different from all the other franchises that fall into the spa category, is that there are many of them, but none of them in the United States focus on PMU and permanent makeup. So we would be the first one that is fully focused on permanent makeup. And
does that end up being the positioning of what, like if a franchise buyer comes up to you, how do you stand out? Is that where you're going to really try to push down the pedal back to franchise
Not
brand?
necessarily. There are so many different options and notes that I can bring up, which is some of them are our fees are so much lower than the other somehow competitors. I can't really call them competitors because what we do is aligned with other franchise in the spa area here in the United States, but not necessarily. But our fees are lower, and how much time we spend in training the owner, who we prefer it to be an esthetician or have some experience in permanent makeup. Set around 75 hours of training for all the estheticians, all the people who are working in the new location and the new franchise. And on top of that, we have our own line of organic products that they don't need to go through a hassle of ordering, waiting for it to come. They all will be placed through us from the headquarters and will be shipped to them so that all the locations have the same products. So these are, I believe, a lot of franchisors in the spa area have this. They have their own products, but not necessarily in skincare.
What are you guys disclosing as the cost to open one?
It varies really because it depends what the size of a location that they want to open. They can open a small location with one room in it. They can open a spa that has 2 levels, like the different locations that we have. But it varies from 200,000 to 400,000.
And did you put in item 19 in your FDD?
We have, yes. But the item 19 that we have doesn't necessarily have much of an information as we are just starting. So we don't have necessarily information about other locations. But yes, we have it in there.
What are you putting as gross sales?
We did not specifically indicate that on there for this year. We most probably will next year, but we will when we are having our discovery day and we are talking to potential franchisees, we will disclose what we have done. But it all depends, because this is a very tricky subject when it comes to everybody goes to item 19, like what are we going to make? It all depends on you. The brand and the model has shown success through facts, but it depends on how you would like to take this model and how you want to present it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, like, that's where early on, the 2 categories of candidate that you're going to want to get in front of are fans of the brand, people that have tried and experienced you and says, "Oh, I can own this." That's going to be the pathway of least resistance. Obviously, that means you would have to grow in more of a concentric circle around Toledo or in Michigan because of that model. And then I think of the folks that are getting rejected by other businesses, similar type investment models, Amazing Lash, Elements Massage, any of the WellBiz brands, that they're already sold out. So they're saying, okay, I can't buy this. What else could I buy? Then they start going down the pathway of buying it, because obviously, like, you're right. Majority of even novice buyers, which I'll have this with candidates too. I'll say, well, what questions do you have? And it's always, how much does it cost to get in, and what can you actually make? And it's like, you're right. It's going to depend on how much marketing you put in place, who are you hiring, how's the customer experience. Like, there's so many dependencies, but like, the industry has been almost trained up on this is the data that you need.
But you mentioned something interesting, because that it's so true, because there are a lot of these franchisees or franchisees that they have taken all of the inventory in this, like the spaces. So one of the good things about M Browz franchise is that it's limitless. You can start wherever you want to start, and there's nothing like that around you. So the inventory is open as far as locations, because it's brand new and they're nowhere.
All right, I have a second question. Obviously, this is a hot seat, so this is going to sound like a hot question, but it's meant to create a conclusion. Because you've evolved what you offer so much, and your name has Browz in it, like eventually as a marketer, do you evolve the business to change, or how do you fit that name back into the DNA of who you've become?
Well, a lot of money that is being built from this business comes from Browz. And the reason why is because of microblading. Microblading is, it became really hot for a lot of women for many, many reasons, and men. And the cost of doing it is high because it's very specific and it's a semi-permanent on your face and you have to be good at it. But the cost of material is not necessarily as much. It's the talent and it's how precise it is from the person, from the artist that is doing it, that you're paying the cost of the brand, basically, not necessarily how much it costs to make it. That's why everything started with Browz, and we kept it like that because it made sense. And the name of the founder is Mernaz. It starts with M and it ends with Z, and her last name is Bosch. So M and B came from that because the brand she's the founder and she wanted her name to be somehow in there and include Browz in it. So that's how this whole name came up. And I don't believe we're going to change this unless we get bought in a few years.
Yeah. For what it's worth, because I'm in branding, I was like, well, Browz also means something else, and Browz, if the letter Y or E went in between there, for argument's sake, the experience that I have, you're going to let me browse through all these services. That's going to boost my confidence. And so when I was like, okay, if there's a transition here and taking a word that can mean multiple things, I'm browsing through a service to build my confidence. There's something there, like building and me are two things that could still come off of those letters. And I see a transition if you ever go there. The other question I was going to ask, because as much as your sister, as the founder, has a background in advertising, so do you. So
A little bit, yeah.
Like when I think of some of the best businesses that have been created, it ends up being brand and how you deliver the brand story. Does your background as a media buyer, is that going to be part of the magic?
So I have always been in sales. So when I was back in Iran, I worked with Sony, I worked with Dior, and then when I went to Italy, I studied there. I studied pubblicità, which is advertising. And when I came to the US, I became a media buyer and then became a senior media buyer, which wasn't necessarily advertising, was more like integration of what was needed into media. So I don't necessarily count. It was more of a negotiation of the price rather than telling a story. So I put Mernaz and Negar beside each other. Mernaz is the brand and I deliver it. And I now work at the Toledo Museum of Art as a corporate development officer as well, which is one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. I love doing it. I love the people. I believe in the mission. And so yeah, I'm a people's people and I like to tell stories and listen to stories.
Okay. So here comes the magic of these discussions. I would go back to the 13-minute mark and write down what you just said. I'm not going to buy your business because I don't know it. Unless I'm a customer and I've experienced it and I can see the pathway. If you go advertise in New York, you can find pathways. Like there's personas that you could use to get in front of. You could go immigrants who have moved to the United States who have familiarity with some of the services. Like there's a million different directions you could go, but you're still getting to the starting line versus you put you and your sister at the front end of this. She's the brand and I build it. Like you have a yin and a yang there that is impressive, that back to a franchisee, that's going to be the gap that they have in their marketplace. Most of the time they can do one or the other. They can't do both. And so if you basically build out your modeling of how you build great business, now it doesn't matter what I'm buying. You could say I'm selling an ice cream shop. I'm more so buying into your methodology of how do we go negotiate the right pricing to now go market our business to get acquisition. There's something beyond there. And so typically, like, and I always do this. I look at the franchise website, and yours says own a spa franchise and run it beautifully. That means nothing. That doesn't tell me anything. It's nothing special. Versus the background of the two of you carving out tremendous careers and cross applying it back to a segment that still has plenty of room. Now that I'm buying from you guys, I'm not buying from this business model. And that transition, especially in the early stages, especially with what you said about the story behind the brand, that's what I would lead with, because that is a sellable thing. Now I'm buying into the two of you and the dynamic sisters who are going to give me a pathway to changing my life, because that's why I do this. If I'm going to quit my job and open a business and invest my life savings into it, I'm not doing it for the fun of it. I'm doing it to build wealth. And so I think you have something bigger than how you're currently positioning it.
Well, I appreciate it. Again, I'm very new in the franchise world, and maybe I don't use the right terms, but and for a lot of people, as you said, they're here, they want to do that because they want to make money. It's not because they don't care if my heart is into it. But the reality is, if my heart is into it and I believe in it, it means so much to me that I want it to succeed. So I don't want something to fail, and I'm not going to let you fail if you want to join this business and build your own through this. And one of the biggest things is it's important when you're starting a new business and you're putting your life saving or you're borrowing money and you want to start something, to walk alongside the founders and the owners. There are so many different spas that you can go and become a franchisee for it. I guarantee you might see the CEO or the COO or somebody in a higher level once, maybe in the discovery day, but it's not like they're going to hold your hand throughout this. And whoever joins us in the beginning steps of this, they might become one of the stakeholders in the future. These are all things that I see, seats that are open at a table that has a lot of opportunities that is not yet opened out.
Yeah.
And very, very well could.
I mean, that leads me into my final question. I mean, you're seeing the pathway. What does winning look like in the next year?
In the next year next year is a little too tight to talk about, Nick. I think next year is going to be hustling and bustling to show this vision and be able to be out there to show it as much as we could. But in the next few years, I see many locations nationally, and I see a lot of locations internationally, because eventually we would like to open in the Middle East. That's where our heart is as well. And that is the heart of beauty. And that is where Mernaz got her first eyebrows, and she liked and understood the business, and she would like to eventually open different locations in Dubai. And it's important for her and I, both being Iranian women, we're prideful. We have worked really hard all our life. And we really care about other women in Middle East if they want to take a chance and build a business, to join us.
I mean, what's fascinating, I love that statement. What's fascinating, if I took American brands, like especially some of the emerging ones, and I were to chart out where do they get some of their initial growth, it ends up being the Middle East. Middle East says, I want to bring this American brand here. Mm-hmm. But very rarely, I never hear an American saying, oh, I want to bring a Middle Eastern brand to the United States, other than what has been Americanized and Mediterranean type cuisine, which has exploded, but nothing that's specific. And so it's interesting, because now you have a direct path to two channels of the world that have been very good to franchising, that if you get your story right, it's a very fascinating pathway to get things going. So, but I'm grateful that you shared your story with me. Thanks for doing this.
Thank
and I
you
look
for
forward
having
to,
me.
I want to hear how this thing works out, because I obviously
we'll be in touch.
Yeah, I love it.
When we get super big, you'll be the first franchise hot seat that I was on.
I love it. This is another episode of Meet the Zor. Take care.